YouTube has strict community guidelines over what we can and cannot say about COVID-19 vaccines and treatments. If YouTube deems we've somehow violated these guidelines, we risk YouTube cutting off our ability to communicate to you. With that said, the discussions which follow are not meant to provide medical advice. Please seek the advice of local health officials for any COVID-19 and/or COVID vaccine-related questions and concerns. Today, a federal judge blocks the Biden vaccine mandate again. We'll get into that. Also, a blue state decides to change how COVID hospitalizations are counted. It's almost like the thing that we were saying the whole time was happening, and now they're deciding that it doesn't look good for them and they need to change it. But we'll get into that as well. There is all that and more coming up, and it all starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. Today it is Tuesday, but I am joined by the one and only Stu Burguiere, host of Stu Does America.
Thank you, Sarah. We're all we need.
Yes.
That's all we need.
Yeah, for now. So we have a special guest coming later. I guess maybe I'll just let them guess who it is. I don't know. I'm keeping you on the edge of your seat. You don't know who's going to be joining us, but they're not here yet. So we decided to start.
Write it down in permanent marker on your palm, and then show it to the YouTube screen when it's time, when he walks in, so we can prove if you were right or not.
That's a great plan.
It's a good contest.
Stu. Mm-hmm. Thanks. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get into this one. So a federal judge yesterday sided with a group of Navy SEALs and other Special Forces service members who refused the COVID-19 vaccine on religious grounds. They ruled that the Department of Defense cannot punish them over the decision. So I know this all has gotten really complicated because there's multiple lawsuits involving multiple different entities, all against the Biden vaccine mandate, and there's injunctions and stays, and everyone's I don't understand what's going on at this point. I thought that this was already ruled against, but everyone has to sue if the Navy SEALs and the Special Forces they have to sue separately. Right?
Yes, they all have to do.
They all have to do it separately.
You have to be affected by it to have standing. Right. So, and this one's an interesting one. Now, this is our friend Jeremy Dice is in the First Liberty Institute is behind this, and they've been helping lots of people who have religious exemptions and want religious exemptions from vaccine mandates all around the country. And so he's been fighting back against this, and they do a great job over there. This one's I think really interesting to me in that. The judge basically said, look, there's no military exemption to the Constitution. You don't get to come up with, hey, religion doesn't matter if you're in the military. And that's why this was, once again thrust back on the administration. What's interesting about this one, I think most of all, though, is that this is probably the most gettable one. Yeah. If you're going to be able to get a successful federal mandate, it's going to be through the military. As many people will point out that are in favor of it, George Washington had a vaccine mandate back in the day, during the founding days of this country.
Well, and they already, the military gets the super experimental vaccines that never are released to public.
Yeah,
So.
There's one that I can't remember which one it is. I can't remember which vaccine it is, but even if you had it when you were a kid, like all of us had, it was one of those early childhood vaccines, you have to get it again when you go in the military. Just just double checking. I don't know. Let's say, they pretty much have to do everything. And of course, when they travel overseas, they have all sorts of crazy requirements they have to do. We pretty much allow our government to do whatever we want to these guys. Famously, we've known that many of them have to go through waterboarding as part of their training. We'll do anything to these guys, which is in some ways sad.
It is.
But they're tough enough, and they pretty much will take anything. And look, this is a situation where if you have a religious objection to it, that trumps pretty much everything in this country. And, I think the administration would do a lot better if they really wanted to get these things through. What they could probably do is just allow all of these religious exemptions and not fight any of them.
Right.
And yes, some people would fake it.
Yeah.
Sure. But so what?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you'd actually get a lot more people probably to go along with this policy if you just would allow people who really object for whatever reason, whether it's religious or whatever else, they don't want to take it, and they shouldn't have to take it.
Well, I know it's funny because, I hear people say all the time, it's the same thing, but with public schools, we already have vaccine mandates in public schools. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, that's not a federal mandate. That is decided by each state. But second of all, I believe there's only 2 states, California and New York, who have eliminated all of those existing exemptions.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, I mean, you say it's a mandate, but you still have the exemptions available: religious, medical, conscientious. I know Texas has, a lot of states still have conscientious objection, so you don't even have to say it's a religion. You just say, I don't care to do it.
Yeah.
It's against my conscience, and you just don't have to do it. So it's like, yeah, sure, you can call it a mandate, but I don't really care if that's what you call it, as long as I can get out of it if I want to get out of it.
Right.
It's the same thing would apply here. I don't think people would really, yeah, you can say that it's a mandate, but if I say I don't want to take it, then I don't really care, as long as I don't have to be forced to do that.
Yeah, and I think we would both have the same issue of the federal side of it anyway, right? Like, the idea that it's coming from the feds is a problem for multiple other reasons. But the exemption does cure a lot of this. It cures a lot of the consternation, right?
Yeah.
Yes, some people will say, I have a religious exemption and not really have one. But most people who are religious don't want to fool with that. I don't want to lie to people about my religion. That's a weird line. I'll lie about all sorts of other stuff. But that one's a little weird, right? I think a religious person wouldn't want to go to someone and say, my God tells me not to do this, if they didn't actually believe it.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. I think conscientious objection. I think, you know what? I don't feel like it this week. I don't like needles is also a really good reason to not have to take it.
Right. I believe in bodily autonomy.
Exactly. And you know what? I believe in that too. I mean, people should be able to make their own choices on this stuff. And, you go through this process. We have other treatments that are out there now. There are a lot of things that people can do. And if they choose to not go down this road, we should just acknowledge that this is just life. A good example of this is Omicron, right? Where you have a situation where we have been battling back and forth in this country for how many months? And almost a year now. And this difference between, I guess, where we are at, 81% of adults have had at least one shot. And I guess, I don't know, in France, it's 84 or 85% or whatever the dumb difference is. Or the difference between, a state like Florida who might have 75% and a state like, Vermont that has 90% or whatever the dumb line is. This variant came from Botswana, right? We have no control over the vaccine policies of Botswana. Almost no one in Botswana is vaccinated. This is a globe. People travel from one continent to the other all the time on these fancy planes. You're not going to be able to stop these things. And yelling at the 15% of people or whatever it is that don't want to do this for whatever reason is not productive. Let people make individual decisions. You're not going to wipe this thing off the planet right now. You've got 2 billion people in the lower income nations that are not vaccinated and probably aren't going to be for a long time. They're going to be on booster shot 12 before these people get shot number 1. Yeah. So you gotta. This is just a dumb argument, and I feel like it's more about politics and culture than anything else. Yeah. No, 100%. So Biden, of course, had a press conference on Omicron and, vaccination status and all of that today, of course, right after this particular court ruling came down. I want to play those for you, but I do want to pick your brain on one more thing about this particular ruling. Just, I guess, before we left for break, I believe it was a New York court that cited against the healthcare workers who were suing to not get vaccinated. They didn't want to be vaccinated. Of course, you either get vaccinated or you lose your job. They sued. They lost that particular lawsuit, if I'm thinking of the right one. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I wondered to myself, how could this be the one? And then I thought, is it going to be a state issue?
Is that what it is? Is they're going to say federally you're not allowed to do this, but maybe state?
I think they're all going to wind their way through the court system. This one was a judge in Texas, right? Maybe more inclined to side with the freedom on this issue. New York is going to be the other way around. I think healthcare.
That's not Omicron, by the way.
Okay, that's good.
We're good.
That's good. Look. We're going to see, I think, we've seen even with healthcare rulings on both sides of this issue as it's winding its way through the courts. Eventually, it's going to get all the way to the top. And part of, I think, the strategy of the Biden administration, if there is one, is to hope that there's enough uncertainty that companies, that organizations will just do this on their own, where they do have a pretty clear pathway as a private employer. They're going to try to do this on their own, and they're going to try to get them to pressure them without these things going through. I think, I don't believe they actually believe the private company mandate is actually going to go through the courts and succeed.
Right.
I don't believe that they think it is. I think they're just throwing this stuff out there. They know half or 2/3 or most will probably fail, but someone will do it anyway, and they'll move the needle. It's a really cynical way of doing business, and it is exactly what you'd expect from this administration.
Yeah, they've done it already with the CDC eviction moratorium and the other things that, Joe Biden has clearly admitted, I don't believe that this is constitutional, but we're going to do it anyway, because who's going to stop us? It's going to take a long time to go through the courts. All right, so let's play Joe Biden. I know he got a lot of flack. I think he said this not that long ago, that this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, the unvaccinated, the unvaccinated. They want to pit vaccinated people against unvaccinated people, even though the more that we look at the numbers, at what point do you stop calling it breakthrough cases and just say that's not the case anymore? I don't think you can accurately call it that. But let's listen to Joe Biden saying this once again.
So there's no excuse for anyone being unvaccinated. This continues to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. So we got to make more progress.
And of course, in the same press conference, he's talking about how Omicron is more transmissible. There are going to be more cases, but you shouldn't panic. Well, unless you're unvaccinated, and then you could die.
You're talking about a senile person here, Sarah, who does not understand the words he's saying.
I'm talking about the president of the freaking United States, Stu.
That is really terrifying. Luckily, it's not an important time with a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, no.
Look, this is an insane way of speaking about this. They can't make up their mind of what the right messaging is. I think a lot of times he gets confused. This really, I think he's thinking of messaging they were trying 6 months ago, and it sticks around in some of these speeches,
Yeah.
Omicron is breaking through, as you point out, breakthrough is not really even a great way of describing it with Omicron. I think through Delta, cases still held up pretty well with the vaccines. Here, the South African study said something like 33% protection. That's a lot. Now, it's 33% against unvaccinated, so, it might be a slight improvement on cases. The hospitalizations and the deaths that, they're still saying are holding up. We'll see, right, as the data goes through.
But when you're talking about Omicron, they've already said even for the unvaccinated, this should be a very mild
it does
illness.
Seem to be a lot more mild. And the thing is, too, when you have something that's spreading this fast, and this really makes the other variants look like nothing when it comes to spread. It is really incredible to see how fast this has popped up all over the world. Even if it's mild, and it does seem like it is more mild, that it could wind up being a good thing, right? It's going to be. I do think it's going to be probably a rough few weeks here, because I don't know about you, but everybody I know has this right now.
Literally everyone is sick.
It's incredible, and so it's hitting everybody at the same time.
Legitimately, are you I've never seen anything like it?
I've never seen anything like it. It's.
Almost everyone I know is sick.
And we talk a lot about the vaccines, and they are, as I was talking about, it seems to break through the vaccines in a lot of cases. It also seems to break through natural immunity. I know people who've had it now 2 times because they had it before, had it again with Omicron. Right. Sometimes as little as 8 weeks apart.
Really?
Which is incredible.
That's
I didn't even know, honestly, that was possible.
Yeah.
I think we have this variant is I think changing the calculus, but maybe in a really good way. And that if this does spread around, you're going to have all the younger people who are going to get it, and have even the old variants, they had very few problems with it. We've talked about this a million times, but With this one, if it's a little bit more mild, anybody who's out there who has no immunity, whether it's us as COVID-19 survivors or the vaccine or whatever, those people will have some immunity. And it does seem, all the studies so far seem to show that Omicron protects you against the other variants.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like at this point, you can't say anything about the future because we just don't know. I mean, you never know when something new and crazy is going to happen. I feel with this thing, you just it turns a different corner every 10 seconds. But I do think that that could be something where maybe we all have immunity from this variant that just kills us over the next couple of weeks, but sends a smaller percentage of people to the hospital. And if we can get through this time, maybe we come out on the other side, and it's. We're a little bit closer to moving toward the vision that I think conservatives have had for a long time, which is this is endemic. It's going to be here for a while. We're going to have to learn to live with it. Yeah. Let's do what we can. Let's get the monoclonal antibodies out there for people who need them, whatever treatments we can come up with, and just deal with it as we deal with every other illness.
Literally every other illness.
It does feel like even the left, I think, at some level is coming around to that.
They have to. Because they have to be tired of it too.
Yeah. Sarah, I was in Miami over at the end of the year. Yeah. And I'm walking around. I'm in Miami. This is a purple state. Miami's a blue area. Yeah. It looked like it does here. People are just walking around doing their thing. Now, they can't all be conservatives, right? They may all be tweeting how evil you are for not wearing masks, but in their life, they've moved on.
AOC.
They're going to restaurants. AOC's a great example. They're going to restaurants. They're going to bars. Liberals like movies. They want to go to the theater too. And I think that there's a market effect going on. It's pushing through all the nonsense. And they're just like, look, we're going to go about our lives. We've done what we can here. Let's figure out what life looks like on the other side of this thing.
Yeah. I certainly hope so. I mean, look, they're miserable, but they can't be that miserable. Right. All right. We've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Birch Gold Group. So right now, inflation is at a 40-year high. They say it's transitory if you listen to the Biden administration. The problem is that it's not. It's here to stay because here's the government's dirty little secret. They actually want it. So think about this. Right now, inflation rates are higher than the interest on Treasury bonds. So with every day that passes, the government owes less on its mountain of debt. Now, imagine if your mortgage had a negative interest rate. Would you be in a hurry to pay it off? You got it. So your pain is their gain. You got to protect your savings now. Hedge against inflation with gold from Birch Gold because government is sabotaging the value of the U.S. dollar. Birch Gold is the only company I trust and recommend for precious metals. They will help you convert your eligible IRA or 401k into an IRA backed by real gold. You can have peace of mind with that. Do not wait until it's too late. They've got thousands of satisfied customers and A+ rating on the Better Business Bureau. You can trust them. You can text WHY, that's WHY, to the number 989898. You will get a no-cost, no-obligation info kit. They're going to give you a 20-page guide that can really tell you how gold and silver can protect your savings, how you can buy them under the umbrella of a tax-sheltered account. Don't miss out on this, you guys. You can text the word WHY to 989898. Do this before it all gets worse, which it will. That's the word WHY to 989898. New York Governor Kathy, I say Hochul, but then I've heard Hochul.
Hochul is what I've heard, yeah. That's what I've heard, Hochul.
I like saying it Hochul.
It's your show.
I might keep it. I don't know.
Keep it with Hochul.
But she admitted yesterday, get this, Stu, you're going to be shocked to hear this because I can't think of anyone, not one single person, who has even said this could be happening. Right. Not one single person who's brought this idea to the table. Hospitalizations in New York right now are likely being overcounted by as much as 50% because people who are admitted to the hospital for something like, a car accident, they test positive for COVID. Well, the governor now says these people are not being treated for the virus, but for their injuries from the accident, but they're being counted in the COVID hospitalization totals. So it's skewing the numbers, which is a new thing that never happened in 2020 or 2021. All the numbers were completely they were what they were and they were not to be questioned. Right. But
you get kicked out from social media if you question them.
Banned.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now, look, she said, I'm not saying that maybe someone's condition can't worsen when they're in the hospital, But I've just been doing a random call around to see some of the hospital leaders that I touch base with, and I'm seeing numbers from 20% to sometimes 50%. We just don't have clear data right now. So this is amazing that this is just now happening.
Stunning development.
Yeah.
It really is incredible, like that this stuff is. I mean, Fauci said the same thing the other day on one of the Sunday shows.
About kids, too.
About kids.
Which I was like, oh, this is really cute that we kept saying, like,
Right.
the kids are not in danger, and now you're basically like,
Confirmed.
yeah, you shouldn't be worried about the kids because they're actually just counting the cases.
Yeah, so I went back and forth on this. I would like to get your read on this, because
Okay.
I asked Glenn the same question when we were doing the radio show the other day. There's a part of me that says, that just wants to get really pissed off about this and say, like, wait a minute, we've been saying this exact thing for 2 years and you weren't listening to us.
Yeah.
And I'm pissed off and I want to be very angry. The other part of me is that, like, maybe we should be a little happy about this because they're finally basically just saying what we're saying. Like, they've come to our position on like 10 different issues over the past like month. And I think like that overall for the long-term like future of the country is a good thing. The problem with it is they don't go back and have to pay a penalty or at least admit that they were wrong that whole time.
That's the problem.
Which is frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously when you have a big spike like we're having now in cases, kids aren't going to be, they're not going to the hospital because kids don't go to the hospital for this almost exclusively. Like, This is something we've known since literally day one of this. Before, when it was just in China, we knew this. And so, when you have there's a lot of cases hitting kids that are having no effect, then yes, those numbers are going to go up when they go in for other things. Of course, they're testing them for COVID because they don't want to spread it around the hospital. That makes sense. But like, backing up a step from this and separating myself out of this just general frustration. One, I do think it's good that they're just starting to acknowledge these things and people are no longer getting their lives ejected from social media because of it. But secondarily, it's really unforgivable for the Biden administration at this point to have these types of issues. If you go back to, we're going through 2020, Trump is president, the Atlantic and some people who worked for the Atlantic started a sort of a private data collection like service to try to get the numbers all together. It's called the COVID-19 Tracking Project. And they put this together and they did like, we would disagree with the Atlantic on a lot of things, but like it was a good solid effort to try to get all these really hard to find statistics in one central place. And they worked really hard to do it. And there's always this underlying thing with that effort where it was basically like, look, Donald Trump is not a serious president. He's not taking this seriously. He's not doing the things he should be doing. So we have to do it. And it was never overtly stated that way, but I always thought that was part of the messaging.
Of course.
Then we get into 2021, and in March 2021, they stopped collecting the data because they said, hey, Joe Biden's going to he's taking this seriously. They're going to do this right.
He said he was going to shut down the virus.
He said he's going to shut down the virus, first of all, so there's no data to collect.
Right.
But the implication was certainly that this administration was going to take this seriously.
Right.
Like, how on earth do we not know the splits of how many kids are going in there because they have COVID and because they have a broken leg with COVID? How do we not know? Like, for example, we go over the holidays and they're like, well, you can't really trust these numbers right now because people are states aren't reporting data on New Year's. What the hell are you talking about? States aren't reporting data. Like it happens on the weekends.
Yeah.
You'd be like, well, the Monday numbers are going to be bigger because on the weekends people don't call in the data. What do you mean? How is we've spent $9 trillion on this. We couldn't have taken $1 billion and given it to data collection so these numbers are reliable and we understand what they mean. Like, how do we, to the point that we've talked about many times, how do we not know every single case, or at least hospitalization, that comes in that has 0 shots, 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots, 12 shots? How do we not know that right now? How is it not available to every news source that wants to publicize it? And it's just inexcusable at this point.
So I'm, first of all, I feel very uncomfortable that you seem to be like the optimist on this because you're like, well, I want to get frustrated, but mostly I just want to be happy with the fact that they're now where we're at.
Yes,
I'm
trying.
It's too much optimism from you, and
I'm just off a vacation. You have to understand.
Okay, because it does make me very uncomfortable.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But yes, I'm glad that they are finally here. However, the problem is that they don't say, oh, yeah, it looks like this was happening the whole time.
Yeah.
They say it as if it's new information.
Right.
Just like who was it? The CDC, someone with the CDC, I forget who, but now all of a sudden they're admitting cloth masks don't work.
Right.
It's like, well,
wait
where
a
the
minute.
hell did that come from? We've been saying this the whole time, and we're called conspiracy theorists, and we're called anti-vaxxers, and I'm told I wanted to kill grandma, and all these other things. Now you're just going to just input this little tidbit of information as if it's just something new, and you're just going to bring it to the table, and no one's going to be like, hi, people got like their lives ruined for saying that. We had doctors who literally got their licenses taken away because they said masks don't work. Now all of a sudden that's just true, and we're just going to talk about it as if it's new information that we just found out.
Yeah, and look, if I'm one of these doctors, I'm not finding too much optimism in this. I'm just going to be pissed off. I can understand that.
It feels like they're allowed to rewrite history as
They
if
are.
like,
Well,
look,
they write it, right?
We got it right the whole time, and now we're getting it right here. Now we're seeing that these things are happening, and we're going to shut it down because we're your saviors.
This is something we see with global warming all the time, and that like science is always right.
Yeah.
And the only time that science is wrong is when science tells you they were wrong.
Right.
And by the time they say that, they're right again.
Yep.
It's a great position to be in. And I think it's a
like,
real...
well, it's wrong now.
Right.
But back then, it was still true.
Exactly. Like, I think some of these things with Omicron are more pronounced. So, like, they might be, those numbers might be higher, but we know this was happening the whole time, at least at some level. And while those questions, instead of dismissing them, they could have been collecting the actual data so we knew exactly what those splits were. These people are in the hospital.
Right.
Walk in there and ask them. Even if you just picked 100 hospitals from around the country and did a poll like they're doing, presidential polls, and called up and said, okay, how many people you have in there? How many are in there just for a broken leg and just happen to have COVID?
Right.
How do we not have this information at this point? It's inexcusable. I think, though, maybe this is built on pessimism. Maybe you'll like this.
Okay. We're going to bring it back around.
Right. Let me bring it back to pessimism for a second. I think there's a foregone conclusion in my mind that they're not going to admit they were wrong on any of this stuff.
Yes.
It's not going to happen. We can try to hold them accountable. I think with some people we'll be successful. Some people in the middle will look at this and say, gosh, they really were wrong. But generally speaking, they're never going to admit they were wrong. They're going to say they were right. I mean, they are still not even saying, Joe Biden went on stage at a debate and said 220,000 people are dead. Anyone who allows that many people to be dead shouldn't even be allowed to be president. And here we are. He's had 418,000 people under his watch. He's doubly not allowed to be president, and no one seems to care.
Yeah.
There's never a point. Even at that moment, they should have corrected him and said, no president can, quote, shut down the virus.
Right.
They're not superheroes.
Right.
This is all, they should be apologizing for stuff, but I don't think they ever will. What I think, encouraged by is what we talked about a little bit earlier with, the situation in Miami, where there is a market effect. People, you see it with the politicians, you see it with the celebrities, you see it with all the lockdown people who can't help, even when they know they're going to get caught, they can't help but want to live their lives because you know what? Life in America is pretty awesome. Yeah. And so I think over time, even liberals want to go to movies, they want to go to dinner, they want to go, they don't like their kids either, they want them to go to school. But they do people want these things. Yeah. And I think the message is starting to wear thin, even on the left. Yeah. And when that starts happening, I think this stuff will start washing away and we'll get a view of what our country used to look like.
Yeah, God, I hope so. All right, we've got more to come, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Omega XL. So you may have reached the point where I have, where you just you wake up in the morning and you just pull a muscle waking up.
Well, getting out of bed is hard. People
really
think
hard.
it's easy. It's not. It's easy to get into bed.
Oh yeah.
But getting out is difficult.
I'm like, oh God, I'm hobbling all day. They're like, what did you do? I'm like, I woke up. Yeah. I got out of bed.
That's all there is.
I shouldn't have done that. Yeah. But Omega XL is there for people who, like I said, you've reached that age where just everything hurts. You pull your back, like bending down to tie your shoe, getting out of bed, whatever the case may be. Maybe you've gotten in a car accident. I had one of those years ago as well, messed up the discs in my spine. So, I understand that when you are in pain, it can affect every facet of your life. Omega XL will help you with that. It is actually going to, first of all, I love this. It's an essential fatty acid combination from the pristine waters of New Zealand, which just hearing that, I'm like, I have to have it. I had to
want to
have
get on a
it.
plane
Yes,
right now. Yeah.
Yes. I don't want to go to New Zealand, but I just want to go to the pristine waters surrounding New Zealand. But it is going to attack the inflammation that is causing all of that pain, all of those aches, arthritis, whatever the case may be. It's the inflammation that's causing your pain, and Omega XL is going to neutralize that. It's going to get to the root cause of the problem, and you can get out of pain. And I'm telling you, it can be life-changing. You can order a bottle of Omega XL now and get a second bottle for free over at omegaxl.com/news. That is, order one bottle right now, get a second for free over at omegaxl.com/news. I mentioned earlier when we were talking about gold, I mentioned the inflation. It's at an all-time high. And like I said, the Biden administration said, don't worry, it's transitory. It's not here to stay. And then they're like, well, it's here to stay. But they just unveiled a $1 billion plan intended to address rising inflation by increasing competition in the meat and poultry industry. They said that over the last few decades, we've seen too many industries become dominated by a handful of large companies that control most of the business and most of the opportunities, raising prices and decreasing options for American families, while also squeezing out small businesses and entrepreneurs. The meat and poultry processing sector is a textbook example, with lack of competition hurting consumers, producers, and our economy. Now, I actually have been almost impressed at how the left has continued to, they make everything big. Big poultry and over Thanksgiving, Elizabeth Warren was like, how dare the big poultry companies overcharge prices, and it's like big alcohol and everything is like big market, and nothing is government's fault. Government is doing nothing to cause all of these problems. But our very relatable president was mentioning this in his press conference, I believe it was yesterday, and he told a story about hearing how high meat costs were. Here is that.
If we can hold a second, I was telling my colleagues earlier in my office that I was sitting in my kitchen yesterday, and there's a sunroom off the kitchen, and my wife was there with her sister and a good friend named Mary Ann, and she was saying, do you realize it's over $5 for a pound of hamburger meat? $5? Well, this is partly, the pound of beef today costs $5 compared to less than $4 before the pandemic.
Boy, wait till someone tells him about those gas prices. He is going to lose his mind. I'm going to go to our other guest who finally arrived. It is Jorge Ventura of The Daily Caller back in studio. We get a double dose of Jorge. Thanks for being here again, Jorge.
Of course.
Do they have any idea what's going on ever?
Well, the funny thing is, I love how he's addressing this issue when it was Joe Biden when he, under the Obama administration when they shipped all of our jobs to China. So that's why we're seeing all of it. So he's the one that passed the NAFTA deal. But look, all I care about is if he could get my carne asada at a lower price, please, then I would approve of it. So, but no, look, Joe Biden actually was responsible with this under the Biden administration, shipping all of our jobs to China. And that's why we kind of have that lack of competition now in the U.S. He's finally realizing it. But like you said, Sarah, wait till he sees those gas prices. I'm from California, so I'm getting hit by those. I'm in a little Honda. It gets me like $90 just to fill up my tank. But hey, I support getting these carne asada prices lower, please, for me and my abuelita. So.
I mean, it's just, also, yes, but it's like they're not addressing the root cause of the problem. They just want to blame everyone else, and they have no involvement in any of the problems. So we're just going to force all of these industries to carry our load, is basically what the government is saying.
Yeah.
Someone's going to isolate that audio and make it sound really dirty. I see you out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. We do see you, Jeffy. I will say, first of all, we should acknowledge that Joe Biden is a master storyteller. I mean, that was a riveting tale of beef prices.
He legitimately looked off camera when he said that $5. Can you believe? Can you believe?
He just realized it too. Two years later, and just be like, whoa.
It's incredible, though. I mean, of course, what is their solution? It's the solution for everything. Spend more money. You have an inflation problem. They're going to spend another $1 billion solving the inflation problem. It's like, we keep having these. We have an issue with cocaine addiction. What's the solution? More cocaine.
Right.
That'll make us feel better for the next 10 seconds. Right. This is what they do, and the left is doing this a lot. In that they're just, instead of trying to acknowledge all the issues that they've created over the years, it's always blaming big big business, right? I mean, this is a standard route of, you point out they call everything, but they put big in front of it and then just blame it.
But never big pharma. Notice that?
All of a sudden.
Yeah.
I mean, that's new.
You never hear big pharma.
Now crickets.
Yeah, it was big pharma all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, Elizabeth Warren, that was like her and Bernie Sanders used to say that all the time. All of a sudden now they've zipped their lips on that one for at least a year, I guess, and then it'll be back soon, I'm sure. But it is an amazing sort of road that they go down. You can't spend your way out of inflation problems. They've spent trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. And, if it was just one industry like this, if it was just one thing, if it was just carne asada, you might say, all right, well, maybe we can solve this problem. Maybe there's a quirk in the market. Every once in a while, these things happen. Government never solves them, but at least you can make an argument. This is all over the place. Everything we're buying in every sector is up by 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%. You can't solve that by creating more competition in the meat industry. That is not going to work. And even if it was going to work, it's not the government's role. It's the government's role to get out of the way so that people can create competition on their own.
Well, it's just like when Biden said that his solution to the supply chain issues was that he was going to make the ports open 24/7. It's like, great, so they can be open for no one to work there because no one is working there. Like, I don't think it matters if it's open 30 hours a day somehow. You magically make more hours appear in the day. If there's no one there working, there's no one there. Like, they just don't understand what I find to be very simple concepts.
I mean, or there's no one at the warehouse to unload it, and there's no truckers to pick it up.
The truckers are not.
It's not even if you unload it from the ships, where it's just going to sit there.
Yeah, it's just like
larger problems.
Out there in Long
I'm
Beach.
not. I didn't go on paternity leave. I'm not the Department of Transportation secretary.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't profess to know all of the solutions, but I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on like what not to do.
When you did go out for maternity leave, you were even
I went out for maternity leave, not paternity leave.
Maternity leave, and you still showed up to do important shows.
I did.
I mean,
You're right.
you still were here. You still were like, screw it, I'm coming in.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. That's funny.
Not Pete, apparently.
No, not well. His body went through a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Pushing that bait. Well, wait, that didn't happen. All right, we've got more to come, but first we want to thank our sponsor, Moink. Speaking of the meat industry, here's the thing. What you don't realize when you are getting all of these chickens in the store is that 97% of chickens that are served in the United States are actually dipped in chlorine before they are brought to you to eat. This is because, you know what? All of these, we're talking about big meat, big meat. Well, let me tell you something. Big food actually doesn't have the same quality standards as a family farm. So you're going to need Moinkbox.com. They have grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken, wild-caught Alaskan salmon. Jorge, I'm sure we can find you some carne asada.
Please.
Yeah,
Because me and Abuelita are struggling right now.
I know.
Because we can't even afford to drive to the grocery store to get it. So please.
I know. So that's why you need Moink. Their animals they're all like raised outdoors. The fish swim wild in the ocean. Moink meat is free of antibiotics, hormones, sugar, all the other junk that you find prepackaged in the meat aisle. We just made some chili the other night with some of the Moink box ground beef. It is like every single thing I try from them, I love. Like,
yeah,
I'm eating way too much.
We did Christmas. It was 80 degrees here in Texas on Christmas. We did outdoor barbecue. Had a bunch of steaks from Moink Box for everybody that was there. They loved it on the barbecue. On Christmas. It was incredible.
I know, but it did feel weird. I was like, I don't feel right wearing short sleeves on Christmas.
Yeah, we were in the pool.
But the outdoor barbecue with the Moink meat is not a bad way to spend Christmas.
You got to invite me next time.
Yeah, absolutely. You're invited.
Your invitation got lost in the mail.
Yeah, there
I don't know what happened to it. But you can
Supply
sign
chain.
up at moinkbox.com/news to get. This is a new one, guys. You don't want to miss out on this. A year of filet mignon for free. I have had their filet mignon. I have it at home right now. I plan on eating a lot of it this year. So make sure that you also don't sleep on this. You can also pick which meats you want delivered with your first box. You can change what you get each month, cancel anytime you want, but you're not going to want to because it is delicious. Join the Moink movement today. That is moinkbox.com/news, moinkbox.com/news. Aaron Rodgers continues to upset the left. Number one, by, I guess, saying he said he was immunized a while back. They were like, hey, do you have the COVID-19 vaccine? And he was like, I'm immunized.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. And turned out that he did not actually mean immunized to COVID-19. Very, very mad about that, the left was. And he just continues to, I don't know, he's surprising me, taking on cancel culture and the woke mob and things like that. But there's another reason for the left to be very, very mad at Aaron Rodgers. I can't even, it's too offensive, I can't even say it. So I'm just going to play this clip.
Get over there, yeah. What are we reading on a Monday or Tuesday? Poetry?
Yeah, a lot of French poetry. Got Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand over here. And,
Yikes.
Rearranging.
Yikes.
Oh, no, we can't have that. So Aaron Rodgers during, Monday Night Football, he's like talking to them, and he happened to say that he has Atlas Shrugged, and that is a no-no.
Oh, yeah. Treating people as individuals in the United States of America. Wow, that's a shocking.
I don't even think you're allowed to say that.
I know. You shouldn't be. I'll tell you that. I hope there's
the Biden administration is working on shutting that down.
I mean, even if you are the most liberal person in the universe, you should have Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. It's a foundational book of one of the main arguments politically, whether you believe in it or not. I mean, it's sure it's a fictional book, but it is. I mean, objectivism is an important part of the political discussion for human beings. Just like the Communist Manifesto is, right? Like, you should know what it says, whether you agree with it or not. Look, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers was like a hero of the left as of a couple years ago.
Weird, this transformation.
And now he's a hero of the right. I don't even understand. I can't keep track of it anymore. I don't know.
I can't either.
I will tell you this. I don't care how many times LeBron James says something positive. I will still hate him. I don't care if he's like, I endorse Rand Paul for president. I will still hate the guy. Aaron Rodgers, I can go either way on.
Well, I was not, it makes me feel very uncomfortable, Jorge, because I was not an Aaron Rodgers fan. For the longest time, I didn't like him when he was at Cal. I felt like he was whiny about one of the bowl games that they didn't get into, and Texas took their place. I did not like it, and now I'm like, okay, what are you making me feel here, Aaron Rodgers?
I'm in love with Aaron Rodgers this season because he's speaking his mind. He's going against the grain. Yeah. He stood up for all the NFL players who are unvaccinated. He actually spoke about kind of what all the NFL and how hypocritical they are with all the vaccination rules and things like that. But what I absolutely love is that as much as the left is hating him and they're trying to cancel him, he's having the best season of his life. Yeah. So he's just winning. He had COVID and then it's looking like he's going to win the MVP. So Aaron Rodgers is a superhuman in my book right now. So I love it, yeah.
It is interesting to see the athletes come out and kind of stand strong on this.
Yeah, and of course they're not affected by this at all. They're the people that are the least affected by it. One thing I am concerned about his MVP race, just because I think it comes down to 50 voters, and some of them are like Peter King. I can't believe Peter King is going to vote for an unvaccinated player. The guy's completely nuts on the left.
Yeah.
I will be shocked if he votes for him. And so if it winds up being a close race, if there's someone else they can vote for, I think they might. There's going to be some of those people who are casting those votes that just out of principle will not vote for Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be interesting to watch.
And the same people will tell us that we're the ones who politicize everything. Mm-hmm. I would just like to point that out. We're politicizing everything, but they're not going to vote for someone because of their vaccination status. That is America summed up in 2022. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be back.
They're bringing in the Nets are bringing back Kyrie.
All right, don't forget, I know we've been on break and you guys forget that those of you who have not yet subscribed, rated, and reviewed the audio podcast, you got to go over and do that because it will help more people be able to find the show. It helps the algorithm, which, as we all know, conservatives, the algorithm is not kind to us. So if you would just go do that, it'll take 2 minutes and it will help your favorite news show. Also, you may see one of your reviews read live on air, like the one today from Nigel02, who said, best news podcast available, 5 stars. Absolutely don't miss this podcast. Intelligent, thoughtful, and humorous take on the topics of the day. Thank you so much, Nigel. And we've got another one from Amy Bostick, who says, 5 stars. I have a suggestion for your new theme music. Could you use the music from your new hit song, ABCDEFU? I can't seem to get enough of it, and it's super catchy. I love your show and your guests and watch it often. I just received my first order from American Beauty. Thank you. I love all the names and how the lipstick feels. Thank you for starting this amazing beauty line. You are truly an inspiration, Sarah. That is so sweet. That is so
Wait,
nice.
is that you are truly an inspiration? Signed, Sarah? Was that you writing that review?
No, it's clearly Amy Bostic. Thank you very much.
Don't expose her.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I did. No, we did a little parody song.
Yeah.
A B C D E F U. So those of you who have not yet heard it, TikTok, it hit over 500,000 views on TikTok, and then they muted my audio.
Oh,
So
they did.
They did. They finally muted it, but it is on YouTube. It's on Apple Music. It's on Spotify. As you can hear from the beeps, you don't want to listen to it around kids. So just make sure that doesn't happen. Well, maybe you do. I don't know what kind of parent you are, but go find it.
Just
Go
the
find it.
alphabet. Why would you be able to A, B, C, D, E, F?
I'm gonna request a song.